When you're stepping into spiritual work, one of the things people often ask is, which spirit should I work with first? It's a question that might seem simple at first, but the answer opens a whole landscape of mystical thinking, personal mythologies, and cross culture practices. There isn't one single answer that fits everyone, but there are threads that run through different traditions, threads that lead you to the spirit that can act as your guide, your mirror, and your stabilizer in the hidden realms. We often call this entity the higher self, or the holy guardian angel, or my favorite, the personal daimon, or in some folk traditions, a companion of another sort altogether. Understanding this first connection and why it matters is critical before you start calling on anything else, even the more flashy exotic spirits. In Western esoteric traditions, particularly within the Golden Dawn and Thelema, the concept of the HGA is central. Aleister Crowley famously popularized the term, but the idea goes back to much older forms of mystical thought. Essentially, your HGA is the ultimate personal guide, sometimes framed as a divine spark, sometimes as a being of pure consciousness, sometimes as a reflection of your own higher potential, even your own soul. Crowley described it as the intelligible spirit, the teacher, the guide, and emphasized that contacting it is not about summoning a genie to do your bidding. This is a spirit you align with, you marry, in a sense. The working of achieving the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel is essentially the work of knowing yourself through a higher mirror, a profound and intimate relationship with the deepest part of your soul. Now, if we step outside of Western ceremonial frameworks, you see remarkably similar structures in other traditions. In Haitian Vodou, for example, there's a figure called the Met Tet, literally the master of the hedge, who functions as a kind of personal guardian. Every person is understood to have one, and it's considered the first spirit you should build a relationship with. The Met Tet is not some distant deity, it's intimately tied to your mind, your life path, and your unique identity. Working with your Met Tet is about understanding your own essence and the spiritual resources available to you. It's about aligning with the currents that already flow through your life rather than trying to drag in external power prematurely. Think of it as your personal operating system in the spiritual world. Without a handle on it, nothing else you summon will integrate properly. Similarly, in folk traditions and certain strands of modern witchcraft, there's the idea of a fey companion or spirit familiar. While popular culture often paints familiars as cats or toads, the older folklore speaks of spirits that are deeply personal and uniquely attuned to the individual. They may not always be angels or celestial beings, but they are conduits to the other world. Their function is guidance, protection, and sometimes mischief. Yes, mischief, because the world is not purely serious, and growth often comes through challenge. A fey companion is a spirit you live with more than a spirit you command. You learn their language, their signs, and they learn you. This dynamic is remarkably similar to what ceremonial magicians are doing when working with the HGA. It's just framed differently. Then there's the concept of the personal daimon, a term that has roots in classical Greek thought. Socrates famously spoke of his daimonion, a voice or presence that guided him away from harm and towards what he needed to do. The daimon is your ethical compass, your psychic guide, and the embodiment of your higher calling. In Hermetic and Neoplatonic interpretations, this can be translated into a working relationship that resembles the HGA. It's your inner guide externalized into a working entity, a partner in the shaping of your life and spiritual work. What's key here is that it is personal. This is not a generic deity or spirit available to anyone. It is yours because it reflects you. And that brings us to the idea of the hieros gamos, or sacred marriage. While this is more often framed as a symbolic union within the psyche or cosmology, it's very much about the same theme, aligning with a spirit that reflects your wholeness, your higher potential, and your life path. In some Kabbalistic or Western esoteric contexts, the sacred marriage is the union of opposites, masculine, feminine, conscious and unconscious, or human and divine. Working with your HGA, Daimon, Met Tet, or Fey companion is a form of this sacred union. You are, in essence, taking a spiritual partner into the deepest parts of your being, learning to synchronize, harmonize, and create psychic resonance. And this is precisely why so many traditions caution against trying to skip this step. Without a personal spiritual anchor, more chaotic forces can become overwhelming, confusing, or even destabilizing. Across these systems, one thing becomes clear. The first spirit you work with should know you. It should be intimately connected to your being, your energy, and your life's trajectory. It should help you navigate the subtle currents of your own consciousness. The danger isn't in summoning, it's in summoning without preparation or alignment. And that's why, besides this first primary spirit, another recommendation that comes up again and again is start with your ancestors. Ancestors are, in a way, the universal gateway spirit. They are already connected to your energy field, to your lineage, to the threads of your life that you might not even be conscious of. Unlike an HGA or Fey companion, they aren't abstract. They are grounded in your own history. They know your tendencies, your blind spots, your inherited strengths. Beginners find this particularly stabilizing because it's not about forcing communication with a being entirely alien to their living experience. It's about reconnecting with a part of your own web, with beings who already have a vested interest in your well being. Ancestors provide protection, guidance, and perspective. They help you understand patterns that repeat through generations, and they can amplify your ability to perceive subtler currents. In many ways, working with ancestors is the perfect prelude to more formal HGA or daimon work because it strengthens your internal and external boundaries, teaches ritual, and develops a spiritual literacy. You also see this mirrored in other traditions. In Haitian Vodou, ancestor veneration is central. Before engaging with lower or more potent spirits, initiates are expected to maintain the connection with their Geda and household spirits, their ancestors. In many African diasporic systems, the first spirits a practitioner calls on are those who have already walked the path of the family. Similarly, in European witchcraft and folk magic, kitchen spirits, ancestral spirits, and household guardians often act as intermediaries. They are accessible, protective, and teach the foundational skills needed to communicate and work with more complex or high powered entities. They're your grounding points, your training wheels, and often your bridge to personal spirits like a daimon, or an HGA. When you combine these concepts, you start to see a pattern. Every culture, whether we're talking about Mediterranean Greece, Voodoo in Haiti, or European witchcraft, they all emphasize starting with the known and the personal, which is stabilizing. The HGA, the Daimon, the Met Tet, or the Fey Companion gives you a direct line to your own evolving consciousness and destiny. The ancestors give you a protective, guiding network that ensures you don't get lost in the process. Without both, even well meaning spiritual work can become scattered or misaligned. Practically speaking, engaging with these spirits involves both ritual and intuitive practice. For your HGA or daimon, methods vary. Crowley recommended ritual evocation, meditation, and systematic reflection. Modern witchcraft might encourage dream work or journeying or maybe psychic dialogue. Voodoo practitioners might work through offerings, songs, and ceremonial dance that honor the Met Tet. Folk traditions may involve time in nature, communion with a familiar, or meditative attunement. What you tend to find across all traditions is that you should inflame yourself in prayer or communicate constantly with the spirit. Get its attention and draw it in. Across all methods, the principle is the same. You are building a relationship, not a transaction. You are cultivating recognition, trust, and resonance. This is why the HTA and its analogues are often described as mirrors. You see yourself, your potentials, and your limitations reflected back, often more clearly than in everyday life. It's also important to stress that these spirits, your personal guide and ancestors, are never a replacement for your own agency. They are mirrors, guides, stabilizers, and sometimes they provoke, but they do not act for you. The point of working with them first is precisely to cultivate the discernment, awareness, and personal responsibility that later engagements with more unpredictable and potent spirits demand. A beginner who rushes into evocations without this foundation risks confusion or even psychological strain. Building a relationship with the HTA or daimon and calling on ancestors first is a way of walking into the other world with a tether to your own essence. So, when we step back and look across cultures and traditions, what we see is a clear message. The first spirit you work with should be personal, stabilizing, and deeply aligned with your own being. Whatever you choose to call it, this is the spirit that will teach you how to walk between worlds safely, how to sense currents and signals, and how to become your own anchor in the mystical. Ancestors are the essential complement, grounding your own work in lineage, history, and protection. Together, they form a foundation upon which any other magical or spiritual work can safely grow. Okay, right. Hope that made some sense. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching, and cheers for now.